Hello, and thank you very much for coming to our newest webinar for the Build Your AutoCAD IQ webinar series. My name is David Pothier, and I'll be assisting today, but main presentation here will be done by Nauman. Just a quick little run through as to who's here. As I said, I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm an AutoCAD technical support specialist. Nauman is one of our expert elites, so he's actually not an Autodesk employee, but he's a great asset to us and has been helping out for many months during the webinars, and he's going to be doing our main presentation today, and he's out of Ohio. And the man behind the curtain helping to answer some questions today is Bryce Thelen, and he is out of our Lake Oswego office. He's also in Autodesk technical support. So before we get started here, I just want to run a quick poll like we usually do. And just basically want to know if this is your first webinar or if you've been to one of these in the past. Oops. And it's not working. Let's try this again. Oh, I guess we won't do that one. It says it's closed. So we'll try a different one. All right. We'll try to see which Autodesk product you're using. Not sure what happened with the other one, but looks like we got a kind of a mixed bag here. A little over a third using AutoCAD, almost a third using LT. All right, and we'll go ahead and close that and share it. So you can see about 37% using AutoCAD and 19, almost 20% using one of the verticals, or actually more than that, including Civil 3D and Map. So that's great. All right. So let me go on from there. So before we get started, just want everybody to know that you can ask questions in the chat window if you haven't been to one of these before. We'll answer as many questions as we can online, and also at the end if we have time left over. Session is being recorded, and you'll find links to all of the materials, including the data sets and stuff, in the chat window or in the registration reminder or the post-webinar survey. If you're new to the webinar series, we've been doing these for over a year now. I've lost track of how many we've done, but we've done somewhere around 70 or 80 of these, and we basically do it in 4 different topics. So back to the basics, beyond the basics, or more advanced topics, third dimension, which deals with things like working in 3D and rendering, and then tips and tricks. And so this one falls under the back to the basics, I believe. I forget. So you can watch the previous webinars on YouTube. There's a link here on the PowerPoint slide to get you to those. If you are know somebody that wants to join and sign up for the webinars, there's a link over on the right-hand side where you can sign up. There's also a link to the Autodesk forums, so great information there. And if you want to provide feedback and help people or help Autodesk design or influence what's in the next version of AutoCAD or LT, there's some links there that will get you to the Customer Council forums. If you're not familiar with the Autodesk Knowledge Network, this is a great resource for all things about Autodesk, everything from general help to articles written by tech support, to downloads, hotfixes and such, troubleshooting information, etc. So it's just knowledge.autodesk.com, and it's a great group of information here. So just a quick overview here as to what we're going to be doing. Nauman will be covering external references. So you'll get a quick overview of what xrefs are, or what we shorten it down to as xrefs. Issues dealing with pathing and such when you have a xref that's not resolved and how to deal with that, and then just some other settings and stuff that you should be aware of when dealing with xrefs. So with that, we'll go ahead and pass this over to Nauman, and he'll get started with the presentation.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm just going to get my screen going here. Okay. Thank you very much for letting me present today. And I really appreciate you joining me and Dave and Bryce. Today we're going to talk about external references, and as Dave mentioned, it'll be a basic in the beginning, but we'll get into tips and tricks at the end and during the webinar as well. So I hope you get great information out of it. So let's see, so what is an external reference? Well, in AutoCAD, external references are anything basically that you want to attach to a drawing. There are certain formats that are only available that you can attach to the drawing, which is, basically the DWG file, an image, a DWF, you can attach a DGN file, which is MicroStation. You can also attach a PDF, and it has been the case, but 2017 added some new functionalities in terms of PDFs. You also have the opportunity to attach point cloud, and with something new with 2017 is the ability to attach Navisworks NWD models. So you can do coordination overlays on your underlays, rather, on your drawings, and be able to work directly within AutoCAD. So that's a really nice feature that they added. So basically, when you attach something, you're linking an object, another file, into your project or into your host file. I'm going to be using the host as the file that you are bringing the xreference in. And let's look at what are the other things that we need to understand with the xrefs. So why do you want to use xrefs? But before I say that, let's talk about what xref versus external references. So according to official Autodesk glossary, xref is referred to as drawing files linked into the drawing itself. So I'm going to use xref for that purpose. Those who have been using xref for a long time know the value of it, but we use it extensively in our workflows, especially even if it's a small company. Our biggest thing that you can, first thing you can do is make the title block a xreference as opposed to a block. So what are the other benefits? Basically, the xreferences allow you to keep the drawings smaller. They also allow you to have the latest and greatest copy. So let's say if you have a team working on other drawings, you have the ability to reload what they have made the changes, and then you see the changes in almost real time. So that allows you to make sure that the drawing is not, your drawing is not out of date, and you are working with the latest and greatest information. It also allows multiple people to work on a project. So you may have multiple files that a person may be working on the base map of the site. You may be composing the sheets. So that's another benefit of using xreferences. And xreferences are like blocks in AutoCAD, but they're externally referenced. So they appear sometimes as blocks. Even behind the coding it does, but in general they allow you to control a lot more layering and whatnot. The blocks are basically part of your current drawing. However, xreferences, which is in this case, this drawing has multiple xreferences, which is the base and then a couple other existing drawings and the legend you have in this project. They are basically linked in and updated as you open the file. So anytime I open the file, I get the latest and greatest of that. So let's, before we begin too far into it, let's talk about what this palette is. So I'm going to close this palette for a second and to show you how to get into that palette.
Nauman, I lost your display can you just make sure you're sharing your screen again?
Okay. Is that working? Is it working now?
I'm not saying anything. Bryce, can you confirm if it's displaying okay for you?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, it's just on my side then.
Okay, because I was looking at the audience view it was showing. Sorry.
Uh,
Okay, sorry about the little welcome moment. So let's talk about how do you access reference. So basically, you are trying to bring in a drawing into your project or into your file, which is your host file. And what I will do is if you are doing that, you go to the insert you're trying to bring in, there is an option right here. It says Insert tab, Reference Panel, and there is this small arrow which brings up the External References palette. This palette allows you to work with the X references in your drawing. You can do several commands, perform several commands on it, make changes in this palette. We'll talk about what those are in a little bit, but let's talk about how this palette helps you visualizing what is an external reference. So if I click on this PV base, notice that it highlights in the drawing window. It allows me to kind of see, oh, these are the objects on that X reference. So if you notice, I click on the legend gets highlighted. And actually, this is my actual drawing itself. So that's one way to work with X references. So let's also look at how the commands are working within the X reference palette. So as I showed you earlier, you can easily attach a drawing up front. And we're not going to talk about the other objects here, or we're just going to talk about drawing. And if you are planning to attach a drawing, you basically go click the attach button, and I'll show you in a minute how that works. There are several other commands. If you right mouse click on an xref, you will be able to issue some commands rather than typing them very quickly. As opposed to also you can do is if you select an X references and you get the contextual ribbon, you have some basic commands available. However, if you needed to manage the pathing, we'll talk about how that works. You have to go to the external references palette. Okay, so let's attach an xref in my drawing. I'll go to the, again, drop down, attach an AWG, or I can click on the insert reference panel and click the attach button right here. I will browse to my folders, and today I'm using a civil data set just to make sure that the civil guys are happy, because many times I've seen we were using the architectural and we see a lot of civil 3D people joining us, so I thought maybe just want to make sure that I use some of that data set as well. So let's look at this. I click on that attach. PV legend, that's my drawing that I want to attach. So why do I want to get the drawing attachment? Why do I use the legend? Because the legend is basically something that I want to repeat from drawing to drawing, and I don't want to have it as a block, because if it is a block and I make a change, I'll have to update like 10 drawings if the 10 drawings are using it. In this case, I only have to make one change, and I'll demonstrate how that works in a little bit. But let's look at how you attach a drawing. So it's basically very similar to attaching a block. I mean, inserting a block, you're basically attaching instead of inserting. You browse if you wanted to bring a block in. You browse if you wanted to bring an external reference. Then you look at the insertion point. Typically, you say specify on screen. In my case, I'll do that. I'm not going to worry about the scale, because this is a legend. It's 1:1 in my paper space. The path type, we'll touch on that a little later. I'll leave it as is. But a good practice these days is that you have to have a relative path, which makes it a little bit easier. Right now, I can't use a relative path because I have not saved my drawing. That's one of the limitations, that the relative path needs to be relative to the drawing. So right now, I haven't saved the drawing. That's why it's not giving me that option. So we'll talk about what the reference types are, but let's click OK. And you can basically click on inserting that xref, attach that xref. Let me repeat that one more time for you. So again, I went to attach, TV Legend, and click open. Again, set that drawing up and insert it on the paper space where I want to. Now, this one, I can attach it to multiple drawings easily. So let's open another drawing and look at how I am going to attach this to another drawing. So I'm going to open my site layout plan. And let's attach that one more time. This time I'm going to use another command called xattach. And right here, the legend, open. In this case, I'm going to switch this to a relative path, which is a good practice to do. And why you want to use a relative path is because you can just transfer the folder, and as long as the structure is the same, the drawings can easily be transferred from one server to another, from one computer to another. I'm going to click OK and attach that xref very quickly. And I think I have a moment, as Renee had said. Attach one more time. Open, click OK, and click. So now I have this attached. So what is the real benefit of this multiple of them? Let's say we wanted to fix an issue in this case. So I am going to double click on the X reference. I'm going to edit it in place. This is called the reference edit, ref edit. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm making the changes as I need to. And I see that the lines are a little bit, shorter. They don't cover the whole thing. They don't line up. Maybe I wanted to change something else in the drawing. And my storm looks like this. I know it doesn't, but let's, for argument's sake, do that. Now I can easily click on this Save Changes. AutoCAD will save the reference changes that I made. And now my X reference is updated. So what benefit did I get to just update it? I can do that with a block. Well, if I go to my other drawing, I get a notification that says, hey, somebody has updated the external reference. Do you want to reload it? Yes, I want to get it, the most up-to-date copy of it, and notice that it's updated as well. So this is a very, very excellent benefit of using X references. So let's talk about now some other items that affect X references. One of them is basically how you would reload. I showed you one way. You can just right-click and reload it easily. Then the other one is basically, let's look at unloading something versus detaching. So there is an option called detach versus unload. A detach option basically completely removes the X reference from a drawing. So I will right-click and detach it. Do not erase it. Use the detach command because that removes all the references from the system. Because if you delete it, that xref reference and link is still in the AutoCAD drawing. You want to make sure that rather than erasing it, you want to detach it instead of that. So when do I want to use a unload at that point? So let's say if I have a reference that I just want to bring in just to kind of take a look and make sure my drawings are correct. It could be the architectural plan. And just basically load it in, but I don't want it to show up every day after day. So what I'll do is I'm going to right-click on it and unload it. This releases it from the memory. It doesn't show up. No worry about managing layers or anything like that. The next time you reopen the drawing, it'll still be unloaded because it persists throughout through the savings and reopening the file. Let's say I want to work on this again. I'm going to look at this drawing. I need to make sure that I can see the reference. I'm going to right-click on it and basically reload it quickly. And now the X references that I was looking at has been restored. There's a couple other options here that we're going to touch on in terms of, we talked about the pathing. So let's dive into a little bit more detail. So if I right-click on this drawing, and if I look at the options available, there's one called path, and you can convert one path to the other. This is a nice feature that they added maybe a few years ago. I really like that. Let's say PB legend. So whether it is referenced as a relative or as a full path, what does that mean? So it is found in my folder, but the saved path is this /PB legend. This is a Windows convention. Basically, it says within that same folder, this drawing is found. As I said before, that it's easy for you to kind of take away the drawing folder, move it to another server, or move it to another computer, and keep working, and you won't have the problems of not having xrefs available to you. The other option was the full path. If you notice that in this case, image, the saved path is the a full path. I'm sorry, this one. I have to walk a moment again. Let me attach another X reference quickly as a full path to show you what that looks like. So if I look at that PB legend, it hard codes the drive letter, basically. So if I move this drawing, it's going to look for the X references on my C users and my name and in my profile directory. That is basically makes it harder for transfer drawings to other people, and when they get the files, they get this error again saying, oh, these X references are not found. We'll talk about how to fix those issues, but just wanted to point that out, what a full path versus a relative path is, and how you can switch between the two. So let me save this file quickly. My grading file. Now, since I have saved it, I'm able to convert this one to a relative path. As I said, relative paths are much, much easier to work with. So all I have to do is right-click, path type, make relative. And now I have a relative. If I save this drawing somewhere, copy it over to another computer, I'll be able to easily find this X references. I won't have any situations where I can't find my drawings, which you see that like right here in this case. I have some images to show you later, but notice that I can't find them. AutoCAD said, oh, I can't find these drawings right now, but let's solve that problem. So if I look at this image, I said I won't talk about, but this is a very good example right now to fix this and demonstrate this issue. So if I click on this attached drawing and it says it can't be found, it has been moved or something like that, and if you get drawings from consultants that use full paths, you can easily convert those paths. What needs to happen is basically what you do is you go to the saved path and click on those three the ellipsis button right here, and then browse to the folder where these images are stored and click open. Now they are available in my drawing. I'll fix this one as well. Again, one more time, you go to the saved path, you click on the ellipsis right here. You have to highlight the name just like you are editing it, and then you can click on the ellipsis to browse. And I'm going to select drawing or an image or PDF or point cloud or whatever that is, but this is how you fix an external references pathing issues. At the end, if we have time, we'll talk about how we can do it in batch. Hopefully I'm able to get to it. But again, these are saved full path, and I'm going to make them relative. Make relative. And now notice that it is ... images and attach. And this, again, is a Windows convention of which directory things are in. So that brings us to a very good point about what is an attached versus an overlay. I will insert another X reference in this drawing. So go to the model space and again attach another one. And let's say maybe this is the grading. Here you notice that it says reference type. This reference type is overlay or attached. If I have a drawing that is attached, and let me go to this graphics, I'll come back to this dialog box again. So reference type, whether it's attached or overlay. Let me switch to the other drawing back where I have the images set up. Right here. If you connect it as an attached object, so in this case, let's say this is my plan right here, the grading, and I have another plan that is attached to it. Notice that this C drawing shows up in A, and when this A drawing is attached, it then carries over the C drawing along with it, and the master drawing or the host drawing will see both A and C. That is what attached means. Basically, it is a nested X reference, and it carries throughout the whole linkage that it has. In the case of an overlay, let's talk what that does. So like in this case, the B drawing again is attached to the A drawing, but notice that it is connected as an overlay. And when this A drawing is brought into the host drawing, you basically see only A and not B. The B is coming separately from it. So what does that help me, Nauman? I can't. What should I do this? When can I use this? The attachment is good for, let's say, if you have a grid. Let's say you have a grid attachment in the plan, or that I wanted to make sure that some of the data that I bring in this drawing is carried forward to another one. So let's show you how that works. I reference this drawing as an attached drawing, this legend, and I'm going to attach this layout plan into another drawing. So I'm going to X-reference this again into the attached drawing, layout plan, and say open. And I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to overlay or attach, it doesn't matter, but let's select overlay in this case. And I'm going to place, it's going to be a big drawing because I placed it in model space, but let's look at what that does for me. Notice that it has these images that were attached, brought in through the site layout plan. But I can't understand which one is attached or which one is nested. There is another view that you can use that's right here in this case, which is this list view, which is the default. Then next to it is the tree view. If you click on the tree view, you can see that when you bring in site layout plan, it will also bring in the base, the EX641, the legend, the images, along with it. I mean, do I really need to see those here? I don't think so. So what I'll do is I'm going to say, oh no, these objects should be overlaid instead of attached.
Nauman, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Was a good question that
sure.
Relates exactly to what you're talking about right now. And the question is, how come sometimes you see a file attached, but you can't detach it? And I think that the most common situation there is what you're seeing here, is you couldn't detach site layout, the image, because it's actually attached to the other file. It's nested. And when you look at it in the tree view, you can see that it's actually a nested file instead of in the other view where you can't really differentiate between what's in the current one and what's nested.
Yes, thank you very much for pointing that out. That's an excellent point. But as I said, if you have nested objects, nested X reference, it's hard to see that in this list view because, I mean, in this image I can tell because there is this pipe symbol between the two. But in the case of drawings, it doesn't do that. I don't know why, but maybe if people join in the customer council, and I should recommend that to them. Say, hey, can you have that? That's a very good case of joining the customer council for. But let's look at this tree view, and then it allows you to see all this nesting within the references that's happening. That's basically example of an attached. So let's fix that issue. I don't want the legend to show through. I don't want the images to show through in this case. So I go back to my site layout plan, and I'm going to go back to my external references palette. Let me close it, bring it up again just to make sure that people understand how to get back to it one more time. So I go back to insert, this arrow key, click on it, and then again look at this legend. So right now it says type, it is attached. Right click, I'm going to right click on it, and it says X reference type, whether it's attached or overlay. Well, I want it to be overlay because I don't want it to be attached, as you notice right here. You can also change it at this point as well. If you don't want to right click, you can do it through the details window. I'm going to detach this, make it an overlay. I am going to, I don't think images you can do that functionality, but with DWGs is the only thing that works with attached and overlays. So let's save the file. And you call somebody, hey, can you fix this issue for me? And yes, I did fix it. I'm going to go back to my drawing. I get a notification, hey, somebody has modified this drawing. Let's reload it. This is a really nice functionality where you can just click and reload, but let's not do that. I am going to right-click on this in this case and reload the old school way. And when it reloads it, notice that PB Legend disappeared from this list. So that's what it means, that overlay will not carry over from this point onward into other drawings versus attached will carry over. So I showed you how to convert the pathing from relative, absolute, or no path. I didn't cover no path, but no path means that there is no path on it. But there is a little bit of functionality of the no path. If you do not have a path associated with the drawing, and I convert a drawing from a path drawing with a relative or full, I go back in and I say, oh, make it a no path, remove the path basically. What that does is basically notice that there is no path saved. That means if all these X references should be in this folder. However, AutoCAD has a really nice functionality. It will look under many other locations as well. It'll look in the current drawing folder, which is this host drawing is in. It will also look under your Files tab in the. So when I look at the Options dialog box, which is Application menu, Options, and under Files, if you look at this support path, AutoCAD will look in all those folders for this file if you have no path associated with it. It will also look in the actual AutoCAD icon, and it will look at the Start In as well path for this drawing. And what that allows you to do is basically save the drawing and transfer it. And if you have a flat system, a folder and drawing, this is helpful to save it, just say no path. There is one more feature that is very unused, I think. And at least I didn't know much about it till recent, which is the project file search path. So you can define these project paths for your, let's say I'm working on project A, project B, project C. I can assign different paths to this, each project, and a path to the project. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but what that does is that you can select, oh, I'm working on project right now, project 1, project 2, whatever that is. That's called the project name system variable. And it asks you which project name it is. And I can say project 1 in this case. And now it will look for all those extras in that project file folder for you. So that's a really neat feature that you can use to organize your project this way. So now let's talk about some other feature sets when it comes to xreferences. Hey Dave, any questions before I get into a little bit more advanced stuff?
No, there was a question about sharing files with others, and I mentioned that you'll be covering eTransmit, so I'll take care of that stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to take a breather too. So, so let's talk about binding and inserting. And you'll see I will trip on bind, and bind, insert, and I'll always make a mistake on, it's just like a tongue twister for me, at least. So what does that bind an xref mean? A bind an xref basically means that you are trying to take that x-reference and convert it into a block. That's what that is within the drawing. So it loses that dynamic update capability from another file because you are making it this case inserted in the current drawing. What's the case for it? Sometimes we have record drawings to send to the client. We will bind it so the client doesn't have to deal with all our fancy, elaborate folder structures, and rather they just get one file with everything in it. And we'll do that in this case. There are some limitations, and I'll talk about that, what those are. But let's look at this guy right here, which is this, which is the legend again one more time. I'm going to right-click, and it says bind. And you can bind either xrefs, which is drawings, or DGN underlays. So I'm going to bind. I always twist on this, as I said. So what does that do? Let's click on it and let's figure out what the differences are between the two. Okay. So I'm going to click OK. And now if I look at this PB legend disappeared from my external references, and this becomes a block. So if I go to my properties, and I select that object right here, it says name PB legend, and it is a block reference, as opposed to if I click on my title block, which also says it's a block reference, and that's when I was saying that AutoCAD kind of treats it like that. But in the back end of it, there is a lot more to it, where it says in here that it is an external reference as opposed to the, sorry, that title block was not. So if you notice that it says an external reference, I made a mistake. The title block is not an external reference. So notice that it says external reference, and the save path, in this case, there is no path, and the name of it and what rotation, block, size and whatnot it is. So you can look at the properties and figure that one out. But let's look at what that did when we bound this object. Okay. So where the best place to look at it is the layers dialog box, and I'll cover some layering now, basically. So if you notice that if I scroll down all the way, this PB legend had one layer in it, basically, and it says PB-legend $0 legend. When you bind an X reference into a drawing, it will convert, it will retain the name of the X reference with this delimiter in the middle, which is $1234, and then the name of the layer coming from that. When is the binding beneficial? And I'll show you when I insert a drawing in a second. So we're clear on this, I hope. This is the delimiter it puts in the middle. And then if you are looking at X references itself, you can see what layers are reference layers have a little bit half tone to them compared to the layers that are currently in the drawing right here. If I look at want, I can go into the xrefs layers only, and where I want to be able to use those is if I want to control whether I want to see this xrefs layer or not, freeze it, colors. I can change all my base colors to black and white if I wanted to. So I can go in, select all those layers, and freeze them, and maybe not. Change the colors. So I'm going to make it all gray for some reason. And what that does is basically updates my background and converts everything to gray that is on that xrefs. So you can control all the layering of an xrefs attached to it. A little bit I'll talk about, there's a variable that's important, but we're going to be able to touch, I'm not going to touch on those too much. The variable name is viz retain, the VIS retain, and that controls whether this layer settings are saved or not. So that's the layer right here, with retained. By default, it should be 1, and I would highly recommend leave it at that. So let's quickly do what an insert does. So if I right-click on this PV-EX61, which is right here, EX61, right-click, xref type, bind, and bind insert. What that does is basically it will lose all the layering of the name of the xrefs and just bring in the layers of the other drawing. If you already have a layer existing in this drawing that matches, it will assume the properties of the current layer as opposed to the bringing it in. Where it's useful, I talked about the owner's record set. Let's say if you have multiple layouts, you want to make sure that you retain the elaborate freeze pause that you have within those viewports. You want to xref bind it, and instead xref insert it, or xref bind insert it. So that's what the bind and insert does. Let's talk about two of my favorite tools, and one of them is the e-transmit. What that is I think it started as a express tool. I can't remember. Maybe I think it did. But now it's available to AutoCAD LT and also in the main product, of course. The way you access it is what that does is, let's say if I wanted to send a drawing to a consultant or somebody that needed to look at this drawing, I can easily do that, and rather than figuring out, oh, I got to send this drawing, this drawing, this drawing, this drawing, where all the drawings saved, I don't have to worry about all those issues at all with the e-transmit functionality. I'm going to close this for a second. And where this is hidden under is application menu, publish. Oops, wrong one. Publish. Click on the arrow right here is the e-transmit. Again, application menu, publish, click the arrow, and get this e-transmit. Of course, you have to save the drawing before you can e-transmit it. But what that does is it figures out all the items that are needed for the xrefs. And it says, okay, it'll grab all the images, it'll grab all the plotter definition files, it grabs all the xrefs files, as well as the sheet set. I really don't want to send all my sheet sets and everything like that. I just need to send them the basic stuff. I can easily uncheck them. And if you can look at the files table, which is the flat view versus a tree view. The tree view is the default in this case. If you notice right here, it says select a transmittal setup. What this allows you to do is set up how you want to send it every single time. I want to always send it as a zip bundle. I want to zip it and send it. I don't want to create a folder and create a zip again and then email them, however that is. Or sometimes clients or other consultants ask, oh, I need it saved down to version 2007, 2000, whatever that is, you can easily customize and create those transmittal setups so you don't have to constantly make those changes. So the way you do it is, let's talk about that right here. It's transmittal setups. Right now I have save as 2000, but I'm going to select the standard. I'm going to create a new from that, and let's say we create a zip and send something like that. And what this is transmittal package type, folder, or zip. Well, we want zip. Here you can select which different formats you want. You can go down to 2000. I'm going to leave them as is. Maintain visual fidelity for annotative objects. That's a separate topic, but basically your text will look exactly the same, hopefully, as you have intended here in that scale itself. And it's going to ask me prompt me for the name. And here it's asking me, hey, do you want to put it in a folder structure? No, I just want to put all the files in one folder. I don't care. I'm just going to send them the drawings, and so they don't have to hunt for my xref and my folder structures. You can set the plotter, bind the xref. No, I don't want to bind. First the drawings. I'm not going to worry about it. Include the fonts. Nah, not really. I'm not going to include my materials, any data links, any photometric files, which Victoria covered last week, no sheet data set, and I also don't want to include any of my unloaded X references as well. So I'm going to click OK. And now I have this zip and send, and click close. And what that will do is now I don't have to notice that I don't have to uncheck anything for the sheet set or fonts or anything like that. It's ready to go for me. I'm going to click OK. I can add also, I forgot to mention, I can also add other files. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything to do with AutoCAD or let's say I wanted to send this DWF file or whatever it is, I can attach that as well. So you can add more drawings, click OK, create a zip bundle, save this, and it saves it onto your computer. And I'm going to browse to that. And hopefully I'll be able to find it. And right here is my zip bundle. And notice all the drawings are available. You can email it and be done. Okay. Now let's talk about my favorite tool that is hidden from view by default. And that is the reference manager. So I talked about, well, it is painful to kind of go in and change all these paths that are not found and whatnot. Somebody moved the folder, renamed the folder. Now I have like 100 drawings that I have to rename, repath. That's going to take a lot of time. I really don't want to do that. I'm not in the mood. I'm all about efficiency here. So what I'm going to do is not even work in AutoCAD at this point and launch a separate software that has always been there, and it's called Reference Manager. And let's launch that. What that does is basically it allows you to modify the paths in bulk. And the way it works, I'm going to add the drawings here. And let's pick this right here. Webinar. And this is my architectural ref manager. What I had done was I renamed this folder from basically REF to xrefs, basically. So I'm going to just select all my sheet files that are here and click open. What it's asking me is whether do you want to bring in all the attached and nested X references. We talked about xref attached and overlaid, or just the first level. Now I said I want everything. And you can see that it has, you can see what fonts are in the drawing. You can't make changes, but you can see whether those fonts are found on your computer or wherever you are testing it as a result. Same for plot configuration, plot styles. If you are switching servers or standards or whatever, this is a good way to kind of at least check your work. Any shape files are missing? No. But this is the real benefit right here. If you look at the X references, notice that you have the status not found. This view is really hard to work with because I have to do basically one xref at a time. There is another view. If you go to this view menu and say list by drawing. If you list it by drawing, what that allows you to do is it makes changes much more faster. If you see this guy right here, you have a slash icon on it. It's very hard to see with the screen resolution. And or the plane, that means that this drawing is good. There are no issues. With the slash, there is an issue with the X references. Okay, so let's switch back to the other drawing, and I think I may have sent it by mistake. By default, this is the list by drawing, is the view that you get by default, and I had switched it before. So let's list by reference type. Click on xref. It shows you all the xrefs that are not found, and it says, oh, what is the path? The saved path is /ref. So I'm going to select all the X references, right-click, and say Edit, Select Path. I can do Find and Replace. So let's say if I wanted to search res and convert it, change it into xref, or you can browse. You can do that. I'm just going to edit the path. Right-click, Edit Selected Path, and instead of res, I'm going to call it xrefs. Click OK. And notice now I have selected them, converted them to the right path. All of the X references resolved. I'm good to go. I can save this at this point because you have to apply the changes. I'm going to apply the changes here. And it says, hey, do you want to do this? Yes, I do want to do this. I'm here. And click OK. And all your xrefs are fixed in one jiffy. So pop quiz. I guess since I see this /xref, is that a full path or a relative path? I guess you can type your answer in the question. I'll let Bryce get bombarded by this questions, you know.
All those that think it's relative, all those that think it's a relative path, raise your hands. Oh, okay, I can't see them, but
raise your hand. Yeah, that's a good one. Not type it in. Yeah, that's a good one. There's a raise hand button.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave, to the rescue. Dave Price, like anything here. Oh boy, almost got killed here.
Yeah. So now you just gave
Since
away
I have
your best secret. So now you know, you put a whole bunch of people out of a job because they don't have to manually change all the paths on their xrefs.
Oh yeah, I mean that's by far my favorite tool, and that's hidden like anything. It's not accessed through AutoCAD. You have to go through the start menu to get to it.
And it
was an awesome tool, and it is an awesome tool. Sorry, Dave?
It also looks like it's not in LT. I was just looking under the LT folders, and it looks like it's only provided with AutoCAD, the full AutoCAD.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not realize that.
Yep.
But this was a part of the Express tool, so I think that would be the case at this point. Yeah.
Yep.
So since I have a couple more minutes left, Dave, can I show them a couple things, or you want to close it out?
I'll give you one minute to show how to freeze a layer without going to the layer.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, some of the other tools here. The problem is I can't freeze layers here easily because I need to figure out what the layer this object is on. Well, I can quickly do that if I go to Home and go to the Layer panel, and notice that this is the Freeze button. If you click Freeze and click on the object right here instead, Freeze, and I pick those. Now only that layer got frozen. If you do it through a viewport, it'll only freeze it through the viewport. And it's an awesome tool. A couple other Express tools that I use with XREF are XList. I'm going to just type it in since I don't have much time. This was kind of bonus thing anyway. You can click on an object. It tells you what those are. And there's another one that I do use is under blocks. I use copy nested blocks. And I can copy objects from the XREF. And one last one. Right-click. If you right-click on an XREF, you get the X reference. You can click the XREF like images, which you can make it smaller. But this Open XREF allows you to open it, make the changes that you need, and save it. And now reload it back very quickly rather than editing it in context. You do it the other way around. So thank you very much for letting me present today. I hope you were able to get something out of it. I'll let Dave take over.
All right, thanks, Nauman. And it's some great stuff, especially the quick 1 minute at the end there. Some really cool tools. So just to wrap up a few things here, there's also some additional resources that's in the PowerPoint. So I have some links here to the trials for AutoCAD and LT. Just make sure that everybody knows that there's been some recent hot fixes for AutoCAD 2017 for both AutoCAD and LT. One of the issues that we've been having quite regularly in AutoCAD is in migrating custom settings. So Hotfix 3 fixes a lot of the issues with migrating custom settings. If you're having problems with that, make sure you download the hotfixes and have the latest, greatest tools from our development team. Just again, thank you for joining us. We are just about out of time. See if there's any quick questions that I can ask real quick. Let's see. The couple of things that Mama was talking about, like XList and stuff, those are in Express tools, so they're not in LT. Just about everything else you saw today was available in both AutoCAD and LT, though. There was a question about unreconciled layers, but I don't think we can get into that in just a minute or so.
There was another one in there that says what layer you bring the current xref, what layer is current when you bring the xref in. Yes, it is important that you pay attention to the layer. We typically have an xref layer, or you can bring it on 0, but I typically recommend an xref layer for it.
Yeah, and somebody's asking about PDFs, and yes, you can attach a PDF, but you can now in 2017 also convert PDFs to geometry as long as it's a vector-based PDF file. So if you're working with PDFs, take a look at that if you haven't seen that before. And definitely looks like there are a bunch of people that weren't familiar with the reference manager because they was like, where is it? Where is it? So we put the link in there. It is in the application menu, so you have to go and browse to it. It's not part of AutoCAD, but it's installed with AutoCAD. If you wanted information on how to import or convert PDFs into geometry, probably the best place to go to is the What's New in AutoCAD 2017 webinar. So just go to the YouTube page and go look for that webinar, and that feature is covered in that webinar. And can LT convert PDFs? Pretty sure that that's in there. I don't see why that would not be in LT. So I'm sure that that's, well, 99.5% sure that that's in LT. All right, and looks like that's.
There was another one. If I, okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll take one more.
No, just one quick, another comment was if you change a color on the base xref, does it change it in the reference drawing? Not really, it doesn't do it unless and until you use VisRetain, set to 0, but I would not recommend that.
VisRetain is a great source of tech support cases. So if you don't know what VisRetain does, look it up in the help file. All right, and again, just thank everybody for joining us. So go ahead and end the webinar at this point. It's at the top of the hour, and look forward to seeing all of you back at our next webinar next week. Same time, same channel. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.